Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to this video. I'm going to be showing you today the bindings that I have for my T-Flight Hotas 1. I have the joystick, the rudder pedals, and the throttle quadrant. So yeah, a lot of people who buy this just don't know what to set up for their bindings, so I'll show you guys what I set mine to. Very simple. So we'll go button by button here, and obviously this is my preference for my, T-Flight. Is this camera on? Yeah, it is. Nice. So yeah, these are my preferences for, my flight, but if you have other buttons that you prefer, go ahead and do them. So I'll go button by button here and show you guys what it does. So let's get started. So first we're gonna go with the throttle. So first thing, you have the button behind the throttle that's kind of like a wheel, which is this one. Joystick axis 5. And now if I do this, did they fix this or not? No, they didn't. Okay. So on Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, these two buttons behind your throttle, I don't know if I could show it on the camera, I probably can't, but I don't know if you guys can see this. It's these two buttons right behind here. Anyway, so it's pretty much the button behind the throttle quadrant that is connected. It says joystick axis 5, but unfortunately it doesn't differentiate the left one to the right one. So I actually don't have it binded for anything, or actually it is binded for auto throttle, but to go around, but we'll just ignore that. So let's move on. So now we have this button up here, which is B3, which is decrease flaps. So I use both those buttons behind here for flaps. As you can see, B4 is increase flaps. So if I hit B4, my flaps go down. If I hit B3, flap goes up, and I just like having that on my throttle quadrant. Then let's go to X. That turns on autopilot heading mode. So yeah, this is a peculiar one, but I fly a lot of airliner flights, and it's just good to have that button readily available, because right after takeoff I like to just hold my heading, turn on my autopilot. So yeah, that's why I have X. So I pretty much take off, and when I'm ready to turn on autopilot, I hit X and then I turn on autopilot, which we'll see the binding after. Now let's go to A. So that's autopilot vertical speed hold. So again, same thing as the heading. I wanted to have heading and vertical speed hold readily available for once I turn on my autopilot. If you don't really fly 737s, 747s, if you're more of a general aviation flyer, you can use those buttons for other reasons, but I prefer to have them for my autopilot. Button B here, landing gear and pause off, but it's more for landing gear. So see, it's an easy gear up. Right after takeoff, we hit B and the gear goes up. Next one, we've got button Y. That's for my spoilers. So I could actually probably change this binding, because we don't, you could put those manually, with auto spoilers, but if ever you're flying a kind of general aviation plane that has little spoilers and you can't arm them, then that's a good button to have for right when you land. Alright, now moving down the throttle. So now we're coming off the throttle lever and we're going down. So we've got button B5, previous and next. So I use the B5 for parking brakes. Very simple, but it's good to have that button. Turn your parking brake on and off. Then my previous button, that arms auto throttle or de-arms it. So again, that's for my autopilot reasoning. If you don't fly 737s, you don't need that button, honestly. If you fly general aviation, you probably don't use auto throttle anyway. Then my next button, that's just engine auto stop. That's more for when I fly career mode, because it's just easy to have that button ready for you. Now let's move to the joystick. So the joystick has a lot of buttons on it. First one is let's go for the trigger right behind the joystick. So that's the trigger. That's F1. That turns on my autopilot. Very simple. So once I take off with my plane, I'll just engage that button, I'll press F1 for autopilot, and then I'll simply press X, turn on heading hold, and then I'll press A, vertical speed hold, and then my plane is just flying straight, which is how I take off. And then if ever I want to turn the autopilot off, that's button F2. So that's the white and black button on your Hotas. That turns autopilot off for me. So if I'm coming into land and I'm ready to take control, autopilot comes off. So now there is a button to the right of the trigger, right up here. Which button is that? B1. So that's auto throttle disconnect. So I had auto throttle connect down here, arm, and I also have auto throttle disarm. Honestly, the arm one isn't very useful because I usually just arm it manually on the flight deck, but the disconnect one is useful for when you're landing. You can just do it directly. Now we have our little I don't know what to call this. It's kind of a up, down, left, right button on the joystick. So that one, when I put it up, that puts my trim up, nose up trim, and you guessed it, when I go down, it's nose down trim. So that is the little button right to the left of F2. I don't know what do they call it, joystick POV. So then if I put that joystick to the left, that auto starts my engine. I like to have that button ready. And to the right is take control of character. So this one is important. That's what puts you in the plane. If ever you start out of it, often we start out and sometimes we can't open the door or get the door. So that brings us out of the airplane. Now we have the last button on the top of the joystick here, which is B2, which I use to toggle reverse thrusters. So this one is peculiar, but what happens is when I land an airliner, I need to reverse thrust. So what I do is I bring my throttle lever all the way back for engines idle. Then I hit B2, which engages reverse thrust. And then you actually have to push your throttle all the way back forward to full throttle, but it's actually doing full reverse thrust, but only after I've hit this B2 button. So that's what we have. I think that does all the buttons on the joystick. I don't use these two buttons down here, but I'm actually going to show you guys what I use for the controller also, because I utilize the controller and the joystick and the thrust lever here. And actually I forgot the rudders, but the rudders, you don't have to do anything. Those just do it automatically. Obviously if I do that, we have the brakes, and if I do the right one, we have the right brake, and if I rudder left, that's my left rudder, and if I rudder right, that's my other rudder. So those are on the pedals. So there you go, guys. That's the full Hotas 1 buttons. But now I'm going to show you actually what I put for my controller, because I mean it's good to utilize your controller and your joysticks. Just gives you more buttons and makes it a little easier to fly. So let's go ahead and see what I use for the controller here. Can you let me, there we go. So we'll search by input. So first thing is obviously our buttons here. So our left stick is used for, I actually should unbind the elevator axis because I don't want it to do elevators. So I'm actually going to unbind that right now. Show you an example of how to unbind elevator axis. I don't want it to control my elevator axis. I already have my joystick, right? So sometimes you make a mistake and you hit your left stick. You don't want it to bring your plane up and down. So we're just going to unbind that. And there we go. But we do want translate axis and translate the drone when we're in the drone video. So that's what we want to set our left stick to. Let's go ahead and look at our right stick. What do we use that for? Ooh, we got a lot. So this is just all the drones. It should be automatically set. You don't have to do anything there, but cockpit interaction x-axis, that's a good one to have. Let's see what else I have. Well, let's go to the D-pad. So up on the D-pad, as you can see, there's a lot of bindings for that. This is done automatically, actually. I don't think I have anything that I set myself here. This will be done automatically. So no worries. But what I do have a bit different is right on the D-pad, ATC panel choice 1. That one isn't done automatically. I set that one myself, and I suggest you guys do it too, because so on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, you have two options. You can turn on AI ATC, or you can turn off AI ATC. When you turn it on, your co-pilot will take care of the ATC communications, but your co-pilot's a little bit stupid, and sometimes he just does the wrong thing. So what I prefer is I turn my ATC, my AI ATC off, and I use this binding, which lets me answer ATC, and you gotta set it to choice 1, because the fact is choice 1 is usually the one that you're always gonna answer. So when the ATC says cleared for takeoff and you want to answer him, instead of going to click the ATC button, bringing the ATC down, scrolling over and clicking, answer cleared for takeoff, you simply click that right on the D-pad and your pilot's gonna answer him, and you don't have to use the AI ATC. So this one is a strong suggestion for you guys. It's going to help a lot and simplify things. Left on the D-pad, quick reply is a good one to have. That one is only for the career mode flights, so I also suggest having that one on. Then honestly I don't use my controller for flying things, so all these increased throttles, I don't use it because I have my thrust lever here that I use. So that's fine. Then let's look at my RT, LT. That pretty much just, it's for your drone. Another binding that I suggest you guys put, I'll show you guys real quick here, is this one. So as you can see, when I press LB and RB together, I have set Zulu hours, days, minutes. So this just sets it to real time. If you don't care to have it real time, you don't have to do it, and you could set that up before the flight, but sometimes I forget and then I want to set it to real time in the flight, so I just hit those two buttons together and then it puts it to wherever you are in the world. It'll put it to the real exact time. And finally, I think, add fuel quantity. This is a good one to have also. So I have RT and LT together. Sometimes you forget or you put in the wrong amount of fuel and you don't feel like crashing, so it's a good one to have. You just press LTRT and it refuels you by, I think, 25%. So again, that's a good one to have, because if you forget your fuel or you didn't put enough or you planned wrong, instead of not being able to get to your destination, you could just quickly refuel there. So I think that's it, guys. All the bindings are done. Then again, like I said at the beginning, these are my preferences. If you want to have different bindings, it's good, but it's a good video for the ones who are starting and you're wondering how the bindings are. And so just made a little video on the T-Flight Hotas 1's bindings. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions for other bindings, let me know and I'll answer in the comments, guys. Thanks for watching.